Hello, BookTube. Hello, friends. Welcome to Lizziefaye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth. I am having quite a time getting this video filmed today. It is already early afternoon on Thursday, February 7th, and I came in here about 11 a.m. Beautiful morning light still coming through the windows. I opened up the blind, and I was shocked really to see the beautiful azalea blossoms. I had no idea they were blooming. We've had a lot of rain, so that probably helped, but I've just been so busy working extra at my job and working inside, doing eBay and everything, that I had failed to enjoy nature lately. So yay for that. In fact, I took a picture outside the window just before I first started filming. So I'll show you that here. It's beautiful. We have several azalea bushes around our home, and for most of the year, they're just kind of spindly looking, but the one time a year when they bloom, they're beautiful. So anyway, I'm excited to look out and see the azalea blossoms. But anyway, I filmed my February wrap-up, which is what this video is. And by that point, you know, it takes about an hour to film a 30-minute video. And so I went and fixed Emily some lunch, fixed myself some lunch, and I sat down with my lunch at the computer to upload the video. And the main part of the video was somehow corrupted, and it would not upload into the computer. So I spent a little time playing with that, and here I am back now. I don't even know if it's 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. I hope it's not 2 p.m. Anyway, I'm back to film this again, and I've had several false starts since then because Emily has come in and interrupted several times. Now I've got a dog at my feet, but I am going to do my best to just consider that first take a rehearsal, and maybe now I can do this a little more brief and with less editing, because I need to get this done in basically one take and, you know, hopefully upload it and let it go without a whole lot of hassle. Anyway, I read 26 books in the month of February. Only about half of those were my own books. In case you're wondering how I'm doing with the Read What Your Own challenge, I always knew that I would continue to read library books and things like that, and that I would not put myself on a complete book buying ban. But I have succumbed to the temptation to buy more books than I had originally thought I would. I haven't really kept count. I am more mindful of it, but I'm sure I will go over 60 for the year. I don't think I've gone over 60 yet, but it is only early March. So I've still got a big trip. Maybe after my trip, then I'll be able to rein it in a little bit more, but I am planning to do some book shopping on my trip in April. So anyway, that's a whole nother story. Anyway, how many times can I say anyway? And I said I wasn't going to edit this video, at least very much. I read 26 books. Several of them were children's picture books, because right at the end of the month, I said, Emily, we need to read some more Caldecott winners. So I quickly checked out the 10 Caldecott winners from the 1980s, and we got 8 of them read in the last 3 days of the month. We did not read 2 of them. One of them I had read before, but I still went ahead and read it to her again, but not until early March. And then the other one that we didn't get read in February is a book of several fables, and it's several pages long. There's like 20 of them. And so we started that one today, actually, and it'll take us a little while. But at some point this month, hopefully, I'll have a video about the Caldecott winners of the 1980s. But I'll show you the ones we read. I just won't go into a lot of detail about them. 12 of the 26 books were audio, and 14 were print. And of course, of that 14, that includes 8 Caldecott winners. So children's books, there were 8. Middle grade books, there were 4. Nonfiction books, 4.5, because I read half of a very large nonfiction book. Historical fiction, 1, but it was amazing. 7 books that I would consider crime fiction. Not so many cozies this time, just overall crime fiction. I'm just putting those in one category. And 2 romance books. There were several events and readathons and read-alongs that I participated in. So I think I'll just kind of go through those and show you what I read as we go along. I don't know. We'll just see how it works out. The first thing 7th through the 10th of February was the Little House Readathon. And so I host that along with some other co-hosts. And if you participated in that, thank you so much. And I want to say another thank you to all of the co-hosts, Naomi and Lindsey and Mitzi. We had a wonderful live stream at the end of the readathon on the 10th. Mitzi had to miss it. She wasn't feeling well, but we still had a great time. We talked about our group read and we did some trivia and things like that. We did decide that next year, our group read is going to be Farmer Boy, and we'll do some trivia on Farmer Boy, so you can prepare for that. But our group read for this year was Old Town in the Green Groves by Cynthia Rylant. It was written about the 2 years that the Ingalls family lived in Burr Oak, Iowa. And I was happy that we all seemed to enjoy it. And I was also glad to know that there were a few people who picked this up and read it with us who had never even heard of it before. So that was great that we were able to do that as our group read. And then I read 2 books that were biographical in nature. One was a memoir and one was a biography. I read Melissa Gilbert's second memoir called Back to the Prairie. And this was about her experiences during COVID. Her and her husband, Timothy Busfield, I don't know if they bought a house or rented a house out in the country. I don't know, but they were newly moved into a house out in the country and were kind of taking some time away from it all when COVID hit. So they were already kind of prepared for COVID before they knew they needed to be. They had started gardening and things like that. And this is just a book about their experiences during that time. And I thought it was very good. I kind of enjoyed it maybe a little more than Prairie Tale, but maybe it's because there was a little less of the F word. I don't know. I didn't hate Prairie Tale. It was just more of kind of a Hollywood story, and this was just more of a interesting story about what happened to 2 celebrities during COVID. So I enjoyed it a lot, and I was able to get it on audio, so that was great. It was on Everand, which used to be Scribd. Another book that I picked up on Everand is a book by Rose Wilder Lane, Laura's daughter, and it's called Henry Ford's Own Story. This is a biography of Henry Ford, and I thought it was very interesting. I seem to recall hearing some kind of controversy about it, maybe in some other things that I've read. I'm not really sure now what it was, but anyway, I found it very interesting, and if that sounds like something that you would like to read, it's on Everand as well. The one book that I had mentioned that I would like to read for the Little House Readathon that I did not get to is this one, Laura Ingalls is Ruining My Life by Shelley Tugas. This just sounded like it was going to be really fun. I couldn't find it on audio anywhere, or I probably would have been able to get to it, but at some point, maybe next year, I will read it, and it sounds like it would be a lot of fun. So another readathon that took place in the month of February was the Retro Romance Readathon that was hosted by Storm from Storm Reads and Sarah, the Bookish Knitter. I read one romance that counts as a retro romance, and it was first published, I think, in 2003. They had said that it needed to be 2004 or earlier because that was 20 years ago. And the book I read was Racing Against Time by Marie Ferrarella. This is the first book in the Kavanaugh Justice series, and I really enjoyed it. There was, I think, just one sex scene, and even that, I kind of doubted whether that would have really taken place because the premise was about a judge who was a single dad and his 5-year-old daughter was kidnapped, and the main female character is Callie Kavanaugh, and she is from a family of policemen and first responders. It's a big family, which I kind of figured it would be since there's a 40-book series about the Kavanaughs. But her and this judge had met once before, I think at some kind of a big fundraiser dance or something, and he was still married at the time, and I think she was engaged since that time. His wife left him, and her fiance passed away, and so even though there had been some kind of sparks at the time they met, they of course couldn't act on those and wouldn't, but now it's several years later, and they have met up again, but it's under these extreme horrible circumstances. She is the officer in charge. She specializes in missing persons cases. And I don't know. I mean, I get that, you know, thrown back together, there would eventually be a romance, but I can't imagine that it would be during the time that your child has been kidnapped and they haven't been found yet. So that I thought was a little off-putting, but overall it was a good book. It was, it falls into the romantic suspense category as most of the books in this series do. I think all of them do. I don't have a physical copy of it, but I found that Hoopla has most all of them on ebook. And at first I didn't think they did because I knew they had a few, but like on Goodreads and Hoopla and everything, if you click on a book and then you scroll down and you click on the name of the series, it will then populate and show you the list of everything from that series. Well, on Hoopla, it just showed a handful of books, but they're actually there on Hoopla. They're just not linked in. They're not connected to the series. But almost all of the books from the Kavanaugh Justice series are on Hoopla, on ebook. So just so you know, if you use Hoopla, if you are ever trying to find all the books from a certain series, don't go by that completely. Look up the specific titles and see, or just look up the author and then scroll through everything, because not all the books are linked. And I found this to be true with several different series, that some of them get missed and they don't get linked in to their series. Anyway, I've already checked out the second book that I'm reading right now for March Mystery Madness, and it doesn't meet one of the prompts or anything, but I just kind of liked having an ebook on my phone that I could pick up and read if my phone was all I had available. So I'm not a huge ebook reader, but I could be convinced to read an ebook every once in a while. So then that was the only retro romance, but I did read one other romance. I read the last one of the Twilight Texas novels by Lori Wilde that I own. Now, there is one more in the series that's not on Hoopla yet. It may turn up there at some point. But anyway, I think this is the only one that I listened to in the month of February, because Cowboy Cookie Challenge is number 13 in the Twilight Texas series. This one was a bit far-fetched. It was about a man who was an expert in campfire cooking and had won many awards for it. And him and his wife, before she died, had a YouTube channel, and they made this whole YouTube career out of campfire cooking. So the female in the story can't even bake, but she's always found herself in various contests with this high school rival who always beats her and just rubs her nose in it. And so now there's going to be this campfire cookie contest. And so she approaches this guy and says, "Will you help me?" And he says, "No, I don't do that anymore," because ever since his wife had died, he was so distraught over that he has just stopped doing anything related to campfire cooking. Well, she kind of talks him into it, and of course there's a romance, but it was just kind of far-fetched that she would go from not being able to bake at all to not only baking, but campfire baking. I mean, I didn't even know that campfire baking was a thing. Can you even do that? Can you bake at a campfire? I guess you can. I have no idea how to do that. And I've done some campfire cooking, but certainly not any baking that I can think of. It would be tricky. Anyway, I'm sure it requires a certain amount of supplies and things like that. You have to have, special things to do it. But I don't know. It was a little far-fetched, but not horrible. But like I said earlier, I guess in my January wrap-up, I'm just so glad to be done with this, because I binged the last several and I was getting really burned out on the series. I felt like the last several books just were more sexual than some of the earlier ones, and without a really good story to back it up. And I was getting tired of some of the same old tired jokes and phrases and things like that. So, done one at a time, with some other books in between, you probably wouldn't get as burned out as I did by just going one after the other. But that being said, I am still really glad to have this series done for the most part, and all of the books from my shelf are read, and they are all listed in my eBay store now. I did think I would get to one more retro romance, and that is the third book in the Angel series by Debbie Macomber. I have this box set of the first three, and I've listened to the first two, and I thought I would try to get to the third one, but I didn't. I did end up having to get a new CD player during the month because I was listening to some Jack Reacher books by Lee Child on a CD, and I was so caught up in Jack Reacher that I just didn't get to this. There are a few read-alongs that I'm doing, and 2 of them are related to children's books or middle grade books. I'm participating in the Let's Read Nancy Drew read-along that is hosted by Mitzi from Mitzi Reads and Writes, and in February, we read book 5, The Secret of Shadow Ranch. This was really good. I, of course, read this as a kid, and I've probably read it as an adult, and I have to say this is probably my favorite of the first 5. It's also the first time that Beth and George are introduced, and yet they come into play right from the beginning, like as if they've always been there. And there's no mention of Helen Corning, who was Nancy's companion in the first 4 books, so I'm not really sure what happened with the writing, you know, in that time, but I was happy to see Beth and George, and the setting was a little different. They were not in River Heights. They were out on a ranch in another state. I guess it's another state. I'm not sure where River Heights actually is. This was out west somewhere, Arizona or Utah or something. But anyway, it was very good. Lots of intrigue and lots of suspense, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm also participating in the Classic Children's Literature Book Club that's hosted by Beth from Soul Stained Ink. And I think this was last month's book, and I didn't get it read. I feel like I'm always behind. I don't always get the books read. Sometimes it's books I've already read, and I don't take time to read them again. But anyway, I did check this out from the library. I finished it up on the last day of the month, and it was super cute. This is Five Children and It by E. Nesbitt. I don't know if E stands for Edith. I feel like it does, but I could be wrong. Anyway, this was about some siblings who encounter a sand fairy. They accidentally wake him up while they're digging and playing in the dirt, and he starts granting them wishes, and of course all the wishes turn out to be things they should not have wished for. It was full of life lessons, and it was just adorable. I really enjoyed it. It's a series. This is the first one, so I definitely want to read more. Have you guys ever heard of this series? I thought it was super cute, and I would love to read more of these. So I don't know when I will get to it, but it's definitely going on my list. And one other middle grade book I read, or reread, was Caddy Woodlon by Carol Ryrie Brink. I had said earlier that I have now read all of the books, the Newbery winners of the 1930s, and this is one of them. And I was thinking, okay, I need to get that video done, and I could not remember anything about this book. So I thought, it's on audio, on Hoopla, I may as well just listen to it again. And I did, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, I say thoroughly. Right at the beginning, though, I remember thinking, oh, wait, am I going to like this or not? Because I thought it was kind of going to go in a different direction, but it didn't. It was fine, and it was very enjoyable. So I'm happy to have read this again, and hopefully this month I will get that video done, but I've got so much going on, it may have to wait until I get back from my trip in April. Or this summer sometime. But I'm happy that I've gotten now all of the Newbery winners of the 1930s read. I think I want to go back and do nonfiction. So I said earlier that I felt like my reading month was very nonfiction heavy. Well, it's kind of because these books were heavy. And these are just the 2 that I carried over. These are not even the ones that I finished. But at the beginning of February, I realized that I wanted to start reading this Daniel Plan devotional. It has 365 devotions. They're just 1 page each. But I needed to read 2 a day in order to kind of get caught up with where I needed to be to finish it by the end of the year. So I read 2 pages in that each day, and that'll be a book that I'll continue to read throughout the year. And then this book, I got, I don't want to go into the whole story right now, but anyway, I got this book for free. I have multiple copies of it, and I would like to give them to some of my church friends, and I wanted to read it first because I didn't want to give somebody a book that I hadn't read and didn't know if the theology matched with ours or anything, because it's a Christian nonfiction book. It's called Let the Older Women Teach by Midge Weiss, Seasoned Wisdom on Love and Marriage. So this has been really good. I have read half of it so far. I have been reading 10 pages a day. It's just a hair over 600 pages. So for the months of February and March, I'm reading 10 pages a day. I'll have it done hopefully by the time I leave on my trip. And then I will know whether I want to give my extra copies to church friends. Anyway, since I'm reading 10 pages of this a day, well, during the month of February, I was reading 10 pages of this and 2 pages of the devotional book. And then I was also reading book 7 of the Through the Bible transcripts from Les Feldick. And then I was reading a productivity book by Laura Vanderkam. Now, this one doesn't look like much, but it's only 7 chapters, but each chapter was pretty long, and it was a lot of information to digest. So, each morning I was trying to read some from all 4 of these books, and then that just didn't leave a lot of time for fiction reading. So I only got about half as many of the fiction books that I wanted to read in print, read. So, it's all good though. I'm glad I read what I did. But this was really good. This is called Off the Clock by Laura Vanderkam. Feel less busy while getting more done. And it was just talking about just using your time on purpose, kind of, and making the most of the time that you have, even your off hours, and not saying that you should schedule every minute of your day, but just to be mindful of how you're spending your time, and some different ideas for that, because a lot of people think that they don't have time to pursue the things they want to, but yet if you really look at the time that you could be wasting scrolling on your phone or watching television or something, you could use that time for the pursuits that you say you don't have time to do. So, and she's not trying to tell you not to do those other things. She's just giving you some tips about being more mindful of how you're spending your time. So that was good. So now I haven't started book 8 of this series because I don't have book 8. And so I'm taking the month off from that series in order to finish this chunker, and that way I can get a little bit more of my print books read that I want to read for March Mystery Madness when my morning devotional nonfiction reading is not quite so long. Before I get into the mysteries that I read, I did read or listen to one historical fiction book, and it was amazing. This is for an upcoming book club. I looked at our list for the whole year, and I decided to go ahead and just start putting several of the audiobooks on hold on Libby because some of them have many weeks wait. And this one came in sooner than I thought it would, and I went ahead and listened to it while I had it. This is Lady Tan's Circle of Women by Lisa C. This was an amazing book. This is a story from ancient China when the women, wrapped their feet and everything. And it's heartbreaking at times, and it's just so good. I've never read anything by Lisa C, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I would definitely read more by her, especially if I can get it on audio. Just got crime fiction left, and I'll show you the Caldecott winners at the end of the video. Before I get into that, though, I will show you another book that I decided not to read. I barely started this. I had it checked out on Hoopla, and I thought I would just take one more stab at this series because it's an award-winning series, or at least an award-nominated series. It's a series that I've heard various booktubers talk about. Not necessarily the booktubers in my little circle, but I've heard other booktubers talk about this series, and I thought, well, I should just, give it a try. The first book in the series is Autumn by Allie Smith. I read that last year, and I remember saying, I don't know what I was supposed to think about that. I don't know what that was. But I ran across a physical copy of the second book, Winter, somewhere in a thrift store or something, and I thought, okay, I'll give that a shot. I started it, and when they got to talking about some kind of a floating head or something, I was like, okay, I don't think I can do this. So I turned it off, and I kept it for a little while in my borrows, and finally I thought, I went on to a couple of other things, and I just couldn't make myself get back to it. And I thought, I'm just going to let that go and not even try, because I don't remember enough about the first one to really even be interested in the second one. It was just me trying to be a finisher and trying to, understand what, another portion of BookTube likes. And it's just not for me. So I'm gonna let this go. So now let's get to the crime fiction. Now, 2 of the books finished a series for me, and I also picked February to read them because A, I didn't get them done last year, and B, February is Black History Month, and I every once in a while try to participate in a readathon called Read Soul Lit. So I thought, why not go ahead and schedule these for February so that I can low-key participate in Read Soul Lit, and so I did. Unfortunately, I did not really care for these books. This is books 3 and 4 in the Blanche series by Barbara Neely. Book 3 is Blanche Cleans Up, and book 4 is Blanche Passes Go. 4 I liked a little better than 3, but both of them have some foul language, which I don't love. Blanche is meant to be kind of sassy and funny, but her humor isn't always what I appreciate. Now, there was still a lot of social commentary in here, and I expected that, but in the first 2 books, it was more about issues being African American and the prejudices and things like that. You know, definitely something that we need to be ever mindful of. But in this 3rd book, it got more into other things. One of the things that happened was that Blanche's niece, who I don't remember her exact age, if she was still a teen or if she was early 20s, I don't know. She was still young. She got pregnant, and Blanche was trying to encourage her to have an abortion. Then she was also sleeping with a married man, things like that. And, you know, they tried to justify it by saying, you know, that was her childhood sweetheart and he was in a bad marriage. But that doesn't justify that. It doesn't. This one didn't have some of those same issues, and so I liked it a little bit more, but I was already kind of soured on the series by that point just because of the things that were happening in this book. So anyway, I'm glad that I got them done. I just wish that I had enjoyed them more, but we just, you know, the author and I definitely don't see eye to eye. I did read that she was an activist, I guess, before she started writing. Well, as far as I'm concerned, she's still an activist when she's writing these, because she's definitely putting out her agenda in these books for sure. So, you know, I was just in the mood for something sassy and fun and cozy, and I didn't feel like I got that from these books. But I'm glad that I read them, and now I can put all 4 of these in my eBay store. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum from that, I read a Christian cozy mystery called Threads of Truth. It's one of the Patchwork mysteries. This one is by Kristen Eckhart, and in this book, this is number 7 in the series, and in this book, our main character, Sarah Hart, who's a quilt restorer, went to stay at a bed and breakfast with her 2 granddaughters, and when they wake up the next morning, they are snowed in, and the proprietor is missing. So it was full of suspense, and it was kind of a locked room, sort of a mystery with some suspense and suspicions and everything. And so I very much enjoyed it. I also listened to 2 more books in the Triple Top Treat Read Along, which is our read along of all 3 Cozy Mystery series by Jen McKinley. For the month of February, we read Pumpkin Spice Peril. This is in the Bake Shop Mysteries, and then Buried to the Brim. This is part of the Hat Shop Mysteries. These were both really good, and I enjoyed them a lot. I failed to mention in my March TBR that I am moving on to the next 2, whatever they are. I think one of them is a Bake Shop Mystery, and I think one of them is a Library Lovers Mystery. And so I will be listening to those in the month of March as well. And then last but surely not least of the crime fiction I already mentioned earlier, I finished 2 books in the Jack Reacher series by Lee Child. I had already started Bad Luck and Trouble at the beginning of the month. I finished it, and then I listened to Nothing to Lose. I think this is book 12, and so now I have checked out a book of short stories, because 12.5 is a short story that comes next after 12, and I'm going to read that before I move on to book 13 in the series, because I like to read in order. So these were good. Sorry about the glare there. I have really enjoyed this series. Now, it's pretty violent. There's a lot of bone crunching, but there's really I think there's less foul language in the books than there is in the TV show. There's not so much in here that I notice it. It's not excessive by any means. There's a lot of bone crunching, though, and a lot of violence. But just a really good series, and I love the character of Reacher. So I got my husband started watching Reacher, and as soon as he finishes up some of the Clive Cussler books that he's reading, I think he's going to read Reacher as well. And I think the last thing I need to do is share with you what Caldecott winners that I read. These are all Caldecott winners from the 1980s. We did not read them in this order, but I'm just going to show them to you real quick. And then I'll do a video later showcasing the 10 books from the 1980s. St. George and the Dragon, retold by Margaret Hodges, illustrated by Trina Schwartz-Hyman. And Oxcart Man, this is by Donald Hall, pictures by Barbara Cooney. Owl Moon by Jane Yolen. The illustrations are by John Schoener. That one I've seen at our at the bookstore where I work. Hey Al by Arthur Yorinks and Richard Agilski. Shadow, translated and illustrated by Marsha Brown. This one you've probably heard of before. The Polar Express by Chris Van Allsburg. Song and Dance Man by Karen Ackerman, illustrated by Stephen Gamble. And The Glorious Flight by Alice and Martin Provenson. And then, of course, there's 2 more. This is just 8 of them, but I will, we're reading those in March, and I'll tell you about all 10 of them in another video. So before I go, I want to share with you a little bit of footage that I shot late in February. We have been traveling a lot each Saturday over the past month to color guard competitions. And my daughter Katie is involved in Winter Guard. She has been doing that since high school, and now she's on a world-class team. And so we always want to go as often as we can to support her. And I knew that the place where we were going on one particular Saturday was nearby where they have a Goodwill bookstore. They've got a few of those in Florida. And I thought it was pretty close to where my friend Tiffany, the Beach Bum Bookworm, lives. So I messaged her, and she was able to come and meet up with me there. And we had a great visit. We did some book shopping, and we shot a little bit of footage. She has already uploaded a short that I'm in on her channel. I shot a couple of clips, and they don't really go together. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, but I'm just going to show you both clips and just let you see a little bit of the fun we had and a little bit of footage of the store where we were, and then I'll be back to sign off. Hey everybody, I just arrived at a Goodwill bookstore south of Tampa, around the Bradenton area, and look who's here. It's Tiffany, the Beach Bum Bookworm. I'm so excited to meet her in person. If you subscribe to me, you probably subscribe to her, and how fun to meet another booktuber in person. I feel like we've known each other for years, because we kind of have. We've just never met in person.
We've done a lot of lives, a lot of March Mystery Madness.
Yeah.
This store is really cool because it's all books.
Yeah, this is,
so
if you don't have one of these in your area, I don't have one in my immediate area, which is why I wanted to come to this one. We're in the area for a color guard event that my daughter's doing this evening. And so when I realized, I kind of thought Tiffany lived semi in this area, and so I messaged her, and she came over to say hi. So I'm going to show you a little bit of footage around the store, and if I buy anything, I'll show you that too. But just wanted to say hi and say, yay, look what
I know, I'm so excited to see you guys. All right.
So I am at a Goodwill bookstore, and there's my friend Tiffany, the Beach Bum Bookworm. Did you guys know that there are Goodwills that are just bookstores?
Exactly.
We have some in Florida, and it's pretty cool.
Head on in.
And this is what this one looks like. They even have like a colored sticker for the day that's at a discount, and things are pretty well organized, and it's pretty awesome. So it's a week later, and I'm just now getting this video ready to post, and I remembered that I never showed you what I actually bought at the Goodwill bookstore. I bought one book, and I bought one for Emily. Here's what I bought: The One and Only Bob by Catherine Applegate. It's the sequel to The One and Only Ivan, which is a fantastic Newbery winner that I've read and loved, and I have not ever read this. I've been meaning to get to this for a few years now, and I haven't, so I'm excited to have it. And then Emily picked out this Peanuts book, Kick the Football, Charlie Brown, and she has looked at it repeatedly. I have yet to read it to her, but we'll get around to doing that very soon. But she loves Charlie Brown and the whole Peanuts gang, and so do I. So I was glad that she picked out this book. Wasn't that fun? I don't know if you have any Goodwill bookstores in your area, but Google it and see if you do, because they are really fun and the prices are great. So it was really fun to meet Tiffany in person. Of course, I've known her for years. We've done live streams together and everything. And it was really fun, though, to meet her in person. And I really enjoyed that. So anyway, that is all I read in the month of February. That is all I have for this video. If you have read any of these books and want to chat about them in the comments, or you saw any books here that you would like to read, or you want to share with me what your favorite book was that you read in the month of February, let's just chat in the comments. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.